In this video, we're going to be talking about the essentials of getting your identification documents and also about becoming involved in your civic rights and responsibilities. Identification, or ID, is proof of who you are, your identity. Government agencies, workplaces, service providers, schools, and other institutions issue ID cards. Many forms of ID include a photo and important information about you, such as your address or physical characteristics. Having an ID is important because when you apply for school or work or sign up for various programs, licenses, and services, you'll have to show an ID to prove that you are who you say you are and to show that you qualify for whatever you're signing up for. You need specific forms of ID to apply for many important resources and services, including housing, employment, education, medical care, public benefits, transportation, driving privileges, voting, banking, and licenses that allow you to work in certain types of jobs. As you rebuild your life in the community, there are 3 key documents for you to have. 1, your birth certificate. 2, your social security card or number. And then 3, a state ID or driver license. You don't need both, just one. Once you have your birth certificate and social security number, you will be able to get a California state ID card or a driver license, the most commonly used forms of ID for everyday purposes. So how do you decide between a state ID or a driver license? Both a California state ID and a California driver license serve as an official government-issued photo identification that can be used to prove your identity, age, and legal presence in the United States, unless you have an undocumented person California driver license. Either one will allow you to prove your identity. For example, when you open a bank account or register to vote, apply for jobs or housing or public benefits. If you eventually want to drive, you will need to get a driver license, but because that process requires testing, we recommend that you get a California state ID first, since ID is needed right away after release. Once you get a state ID, you can go back later for a driver license. So how do you get started? If you don't have any of the 3 most important forms of ID, your birth certificate, social security card, or state ID or driver license, you'll have trouble proving your identity. For most people, it's best to get your birth certificate first, then your social security card, and lastly, your state ID or driver license. First, let's talk about getting your birth certificate. So, how you can get your birth certificate depends on what state you were born in. Each U.S. state maintains its own birth records. The federal government doesn't keep records or issue copies of birth certificates. This means that the requirements and procedures for getting official copies of birth certificates vary from state to state. If you were born in the U.S., here's the general process. For the state where you were born, find out which government agency in that state manages birth records. Get a request form from that government agency, fill it out and send it in, or write a request letter to that agency. Have the form or letter notarized if you're requesting it by mail, or present a photo ID or swear an oath if you're requesting it in person. And last, you'll have to pay a fee. If you're in California, you have to go through one of 2 sources to get your California birth certificate. One is the California Department of Public Health, or you can also get it from the county recorder's office at the county where you were born. Generally, it's easier to go through the county recorder's office, but there are pros and cons to each. Now, let's talk about getting a social security card. If you were born in the U.S. and your birth was reported, the government assigns you a social security number. Your social security number is a 9-digit number that is unique to you. The government uses it primarily to identify you, but also to track your income for tax purposes, and to calculate any social security benefits you accrue as you work. Also, other institutions like banks, hospitals, schools, and businesses will use your social security number as a way to identify you. A social security card is a paper card that provides a record of your name and social security number. Social security cards are issued only by the Social Security Administration of the federal government. Social security cards are always free. While there are many circumstances in which you will need to provide your Social Security number, you'll only need to show the actual card in a few limited situations, most commonly when you're filling out employment paperwork. For this reason, it's a good idea to memorize your Social Security number, but store your Social Security card in a safe place and only carry it with you when you know that you're going to need it. So, to get your Social Security number, like your birth certificate, your Social Security number proves who you are. You'll need to provide your 9-digit Social Security number to access government services and to apply for jobs, public benefits, housing, driver's license, healthcare, education programs, and financial aid. If you were assigned a Social Security number at some point in your life, but you don't know it now, you need to request a replacement card. This is the only way to get your number, because the Social Security Administration does not give out Social Security numbers any other way. You can apply for a replacement card by mail or in person at a local SSA field office. If you were never assigned a Social Security number, you'll need to apply for an original card. So, what about a passport? If you have a U.S. passport, you can lawfully travel outside the United States and return home by air, sea, or land. A passport also counts as a government-issued photo ID for all purposes. For these reasons, if you're eligible or when you become eligible for a U.S. passport, it's a good idea to get one. You can apply for a U.S. passport by mail if you currently have one, if it's undamaged, if your U.S. passport can be sent in with your application, your U.S. passport was issued when you were age 16 or older, it was issued less than 15 years ago, and it was issued in your current name. So if all of those things are true, then you can simply apply by mail to renew your U.S. passport. But you have to apply for a passport in person if you've never had one before, your previous one was lost, stolen, or damaged, your previous one was issued when you were age 15 or younger, it's more than 15 years old, or your name has legally changed since your last U.S. passport was issued, and you don't have any official documents that prove your legal name change. So if you're required to apply in person, you'll need to find a local passport office. You can also apply at any passport acceptance facility, which is a broad category of places that includes some post offices, court clerk offices, public libraries, and other government offices that accept passport applications. So you can find a list of all of these offices online at the website that's shown on the screen. So to apply for a U.S. passport, you'll need all of the following types of documents. You need your Social Security card, you need your proof of citizenship or naturalization, photo ID, and proof that you are off of probation or parole. Okay, next, you'll probably also want to think about getting a library card. Although anyone can go to the public library, you need a library card to borrow books and other materials. Also, some libraries require you to get a library card before you can use the computers or the internet there. Benefits of a library card can include free access to books and media materials. Public libraries contain all kinds of books and movies and music, newspapers and magazines, all kinds of things that you can access for free. They also give you free access to helpful librarians. Public libraries have librarians on staff who are trained to help with all kinds of research questions. So anyone can walk in and get free research help from a librarian. Free access to computers and the internet is also found at the library. Most public libraries have computer labs where anyone can go online and search for free. You can use email, search for information, and visit different websites that you need to visit. This can make it much easier to contact people and also to find jobs and services, do research for school, and look up news and information. Some libraries also provide free access to classes, programs, and events. There might even be free trainings, computer services, and educational programs for community members of all ages. So to get your library card, find a public library near you, bring a photo ID and proof of your current address. Usually you'll need to live somewhere near that public library's area. And then you'll fill out a library card application form. Finally, there are civic responsibilities you might have as well now that you're no longer incarcerated, and we're going to talk about them for a little bit. Voting is a way to participate in choosing the laws and the decision makers in your community. Voting can be a meaningful way to exercise your rights as a citizen and an opportunity to express your political wishes for your city, your county, state, and country. Each state has the power to restrict or restore the voting rights of people with criminal records. Because of recent advances in state law, very few people in California permanently lose their right to vote due to a criminal record. Generally, to register to vote in the next election, you must be a U.S. citizen, a California resident, and at least age 18 years old by election day. But even if you meet those requirements, you may lose your right to vote depending on your custody or supervision status. So in California, you lose your right to vote if you're currently incarcerated in state or federal prison, or you're in county jail awaiting transfer to state prison, if you're actively on state parole, or if you're currently involuntarily committed because a judge found you mentally ill. But you automatically regain your right to vote after any of those circumstances ends. After you are no longer in prison, you're off state parole, and no longer involuntarily committed. Unless you fall into one of those three categories, you have the right to vote. That means if you're on probation, PRCS, mandatory supervision, or any form of federal supervision in California, you can vote, so long as you meet the other voter requirements like age and citizenship. So to register to vote, you need to fill out a voter registration form and submit it to your county elections office. Last, if you're a male between the ages of 18 and 25, you have to register for something called selective service. Selective service registration is required for nearly all men ages 18 to 25 who live in the United States. So people who are presently incarcerated in jail or prison, you don't have to register for selective service while incarcerated. But if you're age 25 or younger at the time of your release, you must register within 30 days of getting out. Please take the next steps to get the ID that you need and to register for the applicable civic responsibilities that you can now take a part of. Good luck in this journey.